Welcome, everybody. You are watching School Psych Podcast. I am Rachel, school psychologist in Maryland. As you'll see, Eric is surrounded by things that he loves with all these guitars around him, so he's in his element. This is kind of a little bit of a different episode. We don't have a guest, but we are going to chit-chat about a couple different topics, and NASP, and Eric will give us some updates with all the things going on. But I'm going to pass it over to Rebecca to introduce herself and talk about how you can participate if you're watching live. Rebecca.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. Happy pre-NASP day, sort of, pre-NASP week day, and welcome to this episode. If you are watching us live, please do log into your YouTube account because you can post right alongside the video and ask your questions or share what's going on with you. Are you getting snow in your neck of the woods or are you traveling, getting ready to travel? We want to hear from you. If you're not watching live, but you're watching either after a little bit of a delay or another day, you can still comment alongside the YouTube video or at least underneath it. And we can respond to those comments and questions over time. We like to keep our conversations going, and we like to hear from you all and know what you like about previous episodes, what you're interested in, and what you're working on. If you also want to find us on any of our social media platforms, we are on Facebook. We're on School Psyched, Your School Psychologist Facebook page, where I post every day about related ideas or related articles that I find, and also on our dedicated podcast page, School Psyched Podcast. And you can find us on Facebook and also on Threads at Becca Kamiz and on Blue Sky, where I just shared the link for tonight's episode. So find us on social media. Please do connect. We love our connections with all of our audience, and we're happy always to hear from you. So I'm Rebecca. I should introduce myself first. I always forget. I'm Rebecca. I'm a school psychologist living in Florida, but working as a therapist and a clinical psychology doctoral student, almost at the end of my program. So that's who I am. I'm formerly from Connecticut, so I'm going to pass it over now to our wonderful friend Eric, who's going to introduce himself. And as many of you know, we shared last time, but I'd love to share again. Eric is arrived in Chicago for NASP in order to be honored with a really tremendous award of School Psychologist of the Year for the National Association of School Psychologists. So we are just so proud and impressed and thrilled for Eric. He really deserves this honor, and I can't wait to hear his thoughts about school psychology and being Spotty, School Psychologist of the Year. Eric, take it over.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Rebecca and Rachel. I just appreciate the accolades. And again, as I said before, I'm like humbled and honored and just kind of blown away by the award. But as Rachel and Rebecca have said, we're pre-NASP here, and I'm in Chicago, and I have some friends. I'm obviously not at my normal spot, which is my wife's office, where I usually am podcasting from. But you can see I have a guest with.
Up, you cut out. I'm wondering if you're. Do you hear him, Rebecca?
Oh, okay. I accidentally hit
there
the
you
mute
go.
button. So
perfect. Well, I'm talking though too, Eric. I said when we first that we didn't have a guest, and I should have said we don't have a scheduled guest. Eric has, acquired friends as he so often does. So we do have a guest. It was just kind of a last minute fun.
Yes. So, and I see Nick's comment. Thank you so much, Nick. And Jemiah, one of my students who is coming to NASP on Tuesday. Fantastic. Safe travels, Jemiah. So I'm here at my friend Steve's house, and the interesting story is Steve and I are guitar students. Steve is a professional musician and teacher, and his wife is a teacher. And Steve and I met through an online flamenco guitar class and have become friends. And I said, hey, I'm going to be in Chicago for a conference. And he said, come on over, essentially. And then his neighbor, Noel, is a school psychologist for Chicago Public Schools. And so we said, come on over, let's talk. So I don't know where we want to go first. There's lots of things to talk about, and I want to make sure we have a moment to honor Black school psychologists at the end of our talk today for the last week of Black History Month. And so we have some articles and things. And Noel was mentioning an African-American school psychologist that he works with, who's also an author. So we can give him a shout out as well. But where should we start? Should we talk a little bit about NASP? Should we talk to Noel about what he's doing in the field?
Yeah, let's get to know Noel.
Okay.
Nice
Noel, what's your last name?
Schechter.
Schechter. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. And how long have you been in the field?
I've been in the field crazily over 30 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think the three of us are probably of similar vintage.
Yeah. I started my first few years carbon paper. Those IEPs were carbon paper. That's all it's been.
And and any rating forms were all peel apart probably.
Yeah, they took about 45 minutes to do the basket. It was like this crazy.
You had to count all the numbers.
Count them up, and then you had to like go through some formula, and then
love it. Oh my gosh. So you work at a school called the Beard School.
Daniel Beard Elementary School.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been.
Go ahead.
Well, I've been there for. I'm very lucky. I'm very fortunate in Chicago Public Schools. That's my primary gig. Been there for it's my 20th year.
Okay. Wow.
It's a great school. I love it. I work with mostly children, many of them with autism, and also a variety of backgrounds. Majority of the students I work with have some behavior issues. Kindergarten through third grade.
Okay.
There's also an early childhood program, and that runs a gambit from everything from state pre-K through what Chicago has, we call it blended, which is like a mixture of general ed, special ed teacher, and then students with and without IEPs, and then instructional early childhood, which is a smaller classroom, and that would be just children with IEPs.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm here with Steve also, who's a music teacher. And Steve, where are you teaching, and what do you?
Yeah, why don't I switch with you?
Okay.
Get in here.
It's like the Johnny Carson show.
Yeah,
Great.
I'm like Ed McMahon.
Exactly.
So, real quick, my wife is a math teacher.
Yes. Yeah.
And has been upper level math for many years. I teach music. I did teach at the high school that she teaches at for several years. I taught band and music appreciation. And now I've got just private individual students, about 20 students.
Wow. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow. So we were talking about all the things earlier. We played some music, and we're talking about, different schools, and Steve's wife, Stephanie's math teacher. We were talking about her school. And so just kind of neat to connect with other educators from, from various parts of the world. We're all here, various parts of the country, I guess, but we're all here supporting kids and helping families and
kids with needs.
Everybody
has needs,
right?
But some kids have a little bit more needs than others. And what's interesting, there's an institute near the music school that I teach is in Arlington Heights, and there's a place called the Kenneth Young Center.
Okay,
I believe, and we get some students with some special needs. Over there, and what I've found fascinating is that there's a young man that I work with. I think he's maybe 11 or 12 or so, and he doesn't talk much. So you just have to be patient with him, and because he'll talk, but you just ask a question, and then you just have to sit there and wait for it to process. And then he'll ask a question, or he'll answer, and some of the questions that he asks me they just blow my mind. Wow. They're so fascinating. And he'll remember things. I'll tell him specific things about like Segovia. Segovia was, the godfather of classical guitar. And he'll remember the date that he was born, the date that he died, where he was from, all of this stuff. But what's been fascinating is just the musical component, to see him open up, over the year and a half or so that I've been working with him, and to really advocate to keep him, because I see how much the music has benefiting his cognitive, growth as well.
That's amazing. Yeah, I love that. and we sometimes don't think about how important the arts can be for kids' expression and growth and development. And so, yeah, that's really, really amazing.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody's had experience with kind of music therapy. It's something that is offered in my district. It's kind of a rare thing, but I have had one student go through like a music therapy evaluation, and she was kind of a nonverbal student, and the teacher had noticed that she's more productive and will engage more when there's music playing. And so I guess and I don't know enough about how the evaluation was conducted, but I know that she looked at engagement without music, engagement with music, and kind of compared those things, and based on whatever it was that she saw, she qualified for some music therapy and whatnot. And I thought it was kind of pretty cool. So I don't know, Eric or Rebecca, if you've ever, seen or have some knowledge on some of that.
Well, I haven't.
I don't.
Seen it, but I have a friend, Lynn Kenny, who has been on our podcast before, Dr. Lynn Kenny, and I just want to give her a shout. But she does a lot of work in this area, so maybe we can even ask her if she'd like to come on the podcast in the future. But she, it's not necessarily music therapy, but she uses music to support very young children, early childhood age children with executive functioning and regulation through kind of like beats and rhythms. And so it's really interesting. I don't know a lot about it, but I'd love to ask her. So maybe we can get her on sometime in the future to talk about that.
Language learners. The idea of Gestalt language learners.
I had you muted. Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
It's muted.
This idea, the Gestalt language learners, and I know there's so much, talking about like, moving beyond just idea of just like scripted language, but this idea of meaning. And I know so many children who have like sung repetitively, but this idea that's also, meaningful communication.
Yeah.
So that'd be, interesting. I don't know. Anyway, that'd be interesting to see that because I haven't really thought through that.
Yeah. That's fascinating.
Yeah. Sorry. Like a temper tantrum.
We have all these musical gadgets over here.
Good stuff. I know that we also, we listed out, and audience too, if you have something that you want to, we have some friends that are interested in the topic. So I love that. If anything you want to, discuss tonight, I feel like we're open because we have this kind of open agenda. I did want to pass it to you, Rebecca, because I know you had some kind of good and exciting news. And before we got into like heavier topics, I feel like we should talk about what you have to share.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes, we can have lots of rounds of good news from any audience member that's out there. If you have any good news, we'd love to hear it. There's not enough good news going around. But my good news is that Friday was match day, APA match day for aspiring interns in clinical psychology. And maybe I'm not sure if school psychology, I think even school psychologists likely had the same match day, but I ended up matching, which is so exciting because it means that I can start my internship in September, and it's a full year internship. And I'm so excited. This year there were around 4,600 applicants to the internship process and around 3,600 APA accredited sites. So because of lack of funding and all kinds of problems with shortages, et cetera, a lot of students didn't match, and it just means that they have to experience a little bit of stress and uncertainty for a little longer. There is a phase 2 of the match process, and so I'm hoping if you're out there and you're in that boat that you hold on to hope and will find a placement in phase 2. There's reason to be hopeful for that. And then, of course, there's always next year for the process. And there is a phase 3 too. So anybody who's in the process of applying to their internship, I'd love to hear, or anyone who's recently gone through that, any advice or tips. But I'm really excited that the days of not knowing where I'll be next year are over, and I will be able to graduate in 2027. So I'm really excited about that as well. Thank you.
That's awesome. I saw that Jeremy Sharp, who we've had on before, posted, I thought it was funny, happy match day to all who celebrate, or something like that. So I was like, yay, and I thought of you, Rebecca. And not only did you match, you matched with your top choice, right?
Yes, I did. really like tarot. Yeah. The ranking system is like, a friend of mine who has a child applying to college or in college said it's kind of like what sororities and fraternities do. They rank all their applicants, and then they like do some kind of mathematical formula to match the person's top choice with the internship site's first choices. So if your internship site doesn't match you as highly as you match them, then you fall down to your next highest choice. And so it's a little, confusing and complicated that way. And if they don't rank you at all, then you don't get that opportunity. So I did get the position that I wanted to be in. And I'm a little cautious because in the process, you're not allowed to say what your first choice is because you might influence the site and since I haven't officially started, I don't know where I stand on that yet. So I'm still going to be a little quiet about where I'll be, but if I'm allowed to talk about it at some point, I'd love to. It's definitely going to be a place where I'll learn and grow and hopefully contribute as well. I'm going to be able to work with individuals and groups and families. So it's right up my alley. I'm very, very excited. And yeah, I can't wait to get started.
Good stuff. Lots of good news for sure. All right, Eric, where do you think we should go next? I know we talked about a couple different places to land.
Yeah, well, I guess I actually wanted to ask Noel, are you going to NASP? Do you know? Or it's totally okay if you're not. I'm so sorry. I'm just curious if you're able to make it.
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay.
But if I knew, if I met you before, I definitely would have been there. So,
thank you. Well, and I know we're having some pretty horrible weather on the East Coast, and I know a lot of people are not making it out who were hoping to. There's a blizzard coming through New England and up the Eastern Seaboard. So I know I'm getting messages from folks who are saying I'm not going to make it, and I wish I could. And NASP sent out. So anyone watching who is hoping to go or possibly can't, NASP has sent out a virtual option. So you can change your registration to virtual if you need to. So something for folks.
Yeah, I was like I'm planning on still getting. So in Maryland, we are getting snow right now. I'm kind of feeling how I am supposed to fly out on Tuesday morning. I was a little bit like, I don't know. Some people have told me, it should be fine by then, but we'll kind of see. But yeah, when NASP sent out that email, I was like, okay, that made me feel a little bit better that there's kind of an option for some of these things. And they said something about in the email that, might be able to get the fees waived for the hotel too, if you have to kind of cancel. So yeah, I'm sure that there's lots of people out there that are in a little bit of a limbo, waiting to see what the weather's going to do before we know what is happening. But I'm definitely wanting to get there.
How's the weather in Chicago, Eric? I'm sure it's cold, but
it's cold, but it's not. There's no blizzard here.
Right. So we had about a 16th of an inch of snow last week.
Okay. It was in the 60s a couple days ago.
Oh, wow. That's kind of nice for Chicago in February.
Yeah.
So, nice. It's cold when we got off the plane, but...
up until Wednesday.
Okay.
In the 50s, 60s.
Wow.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
I believe that the hotels and the conferences are like connected underground too. So you don't necessarily have to like brave out into the weather if it's really cold, but we'll see.
Church building.
That's
Chicago.
Right. Yeah. And honestly, chatting with Steve about coming here last time, 2017, 2018, and I didn't really venture off too far. I stayed in the tunnels and I did go get deep dish pizza and stuff, but it was the day after NASP. I stayed an extra day and did a little tour of the Frank Lloyd Wright House and the Unitarian Church, and got to see that from the outside and some of the buildings. So if you have time and you're in the area, there's a lot of sites in Chicago, not just stuff like that, but museums and restaurants and a lot of culture here, music.
Yeah. A lot of people like to see the bean.
Oh, yeah.
Or the cloud, I guess. I'm not sure what it's officially called.
Thanks. Cloudscape, I think is the
Cloudscape.
name. Yeah, the Bean though.
But it's not too far from the hotel.
Okay.
Hey, I'm going to give you a couple of pro tip.
Yeah.
Go to right across the street from the Bean. There's the Chicago Athletic Club. It's just a nice hotel. It's on Michigan Avenue, but there's Lulu's Rooftop, I think it's called.
Okay.
You don't have to pay, but if you go up there, it's like up on the 12th floor. And there's like a little roof deck, and it overlooks Michigan Avenue. It's a really beautiful view of the Bean and then Michigan beyond. It's a gorgeous view of the city. And the coolest thing is it's free.
Wow. That's awesome.
Get in line. Yeah.
So there's a good pro tip.
Yeah.
Really nice.
From Noel, who also does a travel blog.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even think to ask.
I know.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's cool. What's your travel blog called?
Henna. My daughter's name is Henna, Henna. My wife's name is Corey, and I'm Noel. So our blog is Henna, Henna, COR, Noel, NOELI Days. Henna Cannoli Days.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's beautiful. It reminds me of an episode that we sometimes talk about having school psych side hustles and finding out what people are doing, in their spare time for fun or for, other work. That's really interesting. That must be really fun to write the travel blog.
Yeah, I love to write.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Go ahead. Finish your thought and I'll ask you.
Well, I'll just say this is, I work with a population that's quote unquote, oftentimes really difficult to test.
Yeah.
It's really difficult to do standardized tests. So I feel like most of what my reports are like narrative. And so I feel like a lot of the outlet for my writing energies, the creative writing juices, actually, become interesting because I have to describe these students in a way, if I just do the test scores, it'd be very mechanical and it wouldn't tell you anything.
Yeah.
So I
love that.
I found it challenging to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's neat.
And my fun side hustle is I do theater reviews. That's my cool.
Wow.
Yeah, I do for New City, which is like a small.
See, this is like a lot of creative energy sitting right here. Right. I love it.
And I'm kind of hearing some pro tips in there for other school psychs that want to express themselves more creatively in their work and, like ways to have outlets. What is it like being a school psychologist in Chicago?
Busy, very busy. I worked in Chicago, then I worked briefly in 2 suburban school districts and then Chicago. And I really found myself thriving in the busyness of it all. In Chicago, always. I mean, I think it's actually done better giving us more, having more resources. But there's always, if you need, let's just say you need 7 to get the job done, just give an arbitrary number 7. I mean, you'll get 4.
Okay.
You're always, you're always kind of pushing. But I kind of, you learn to really thrive in that energy. Things I love about working in Chicago is the diversity of it. You have the schools themselves are often, may or may not be so diverse, but the staff I work with is always diverse. We always, coming from many, many different backgrounds.
Yeah.
And everything again is always quick. Quick. You just learn to adapt.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about Chicago is a huge city geographically.
Yeah.
And there's such a diversity, just socioeconomically and all of that stuff. But CPS is one unit.
CPS, Chicago is one unit, and that's the high school and the elementary school. Skokie, which is a suburb adjacent to Chicago, it's about maybe 40,000 people. They have, I believe, 4 separate districts for those one area. In the suburbs, as far as at least in the immediate area, high schools are always separate from the elementary schools. So like places like Evanston, for example, there's a separate Evanston high school district,
right.
and a separate Evanston elementary school district. Where Chicago is just massive. I mean, I believe it's the country's 4th largest school district.
Wow.
Or maybe in the second. It might actually be the second.
Okay.
Second or third largest.
So are we talking hundreds of thousands, 100,000 kids, or
well over 100,000?
Wow.
I don't know the exact numbers.
That's incredible.
How many school psychs?
So I don't want to. I'm just giving an estimate because I don't know exactly, and I feel like if I say the wrong number, it's too low. Somebody will be. But I believe there's approximately 250.
Wow.
For a population of hundreds of thousands of students.
Wow.
That's crazy. So I was in Clark County in Las Vegas, and I think we were told we were in that top, and we had like 200 psychs or so there, I believe, and they were the whatever largest district in the country. So yeah, you're topping that. Well, that was
I believe Chicago and LA are like neck and neck.
I bet.
Like the size. I think LA maybe just overtook Chicago, but it's like, I think also because LA, I think, is divided up somewhat. I don't think it's, I think there's LA unified, but that's not all of LA proper, I think.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so interesting.
Yeah.
I'm going to Google it now, or maybe ChatGPT. Like, which district has the most school psychs? I don't know.
Let's see if Google knows. Maybe ChatGPT can tell us.
Can I ask, what's it like being a school psychologist in Maryland or Connecticut or Florida? Did I catch all this?
Yeah. Who wants to jump in? I'll jump. Rachel's Googling. Rebecca, do you want to jump in?
I'll just start by saying I don't know what it's like to be a school psych in Florida because I haven't worked in the Florida schools. I've been here for 3.5 years, but I've been in graduate school and just working as a therapist. So can't answer that question. But Eric, what's it like in Connecticut?
You were in Connecticut, but good question. So my district is a small urban district, about I think 8,000 students. We have 17 or 18 school psychologists.
It's a lot of school psychologists, right? 8,000.
Yeah, I mean, I think we do pretty well.
Lane, can I just say, my daughter went to Lane Tech. Lane Tech High School is the second biggest high school in the state. It's approximately 4,600 students.
Wow.
And they have one full-time psychologist for 4,600 students.
Wow.
Yeah.
We definitely, we have one school psych per elementary school. And then we have, actually one of our elementaries has two. And we have, 300 to 500 or maybe 300 to 700 kids per elementary school.
Okay.
And then our high schools have 2 school psychs each. And one of our middle schools has 2 school psychs, and then the other 2 have 1. And I think those middle schools are about 700 kids. So we're not quite at NASP's ratio, but we're not too far off. Mm-hmm. I think Boston Public Schools, Andrea Amador, who will come, I'm assuming will come this week to NASP, and hopefully at some point might be NASP president. She's, I think, was a runner-up for NASP president this year, but someone else was elected. But she is the director of special services in the school psych department for Boston Public Schools, and they have met, I believe they've met NASP's ratio at Boston Public Schools, which is, of course, is a huge district as well. So they're really trying to get, I don't know what it is, 500 students per psych or something like that. So I should know that number, but I don't know it offhand. But it's kind of nice to see that someone in a huge school district is able to do that. So so maybe for Chicago and LA and maybe we'll get there.
We have it's a contract. The contract that we have stipulates one social worker per school, and CPS has been challenged, but they've been doing, I think, has done a good faith effort of meeting that. But that's social work, so I feel like that's the energy.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, the contract did not say one school psychologist per elementary school.
Okay. Yeah.
So you have that.
Yeah. And I don't know if mine is the standard or typical for Connecticut, but I would say that's probably, we have a lot of schools that are districts that are similar around the state. And I do other things. We were talking, I was the ADOS guy for a little while.
Okay.
have a school neuropsych background. So I also do school neuropsych evals and was doing, was the NEPSI guy for the district for a while.
Oh, wow. So that's something like the NEPSI is something that like in CPS, we don't do.
Oh, interesting.
That wouldn't be like a part of like, we don't have a NEPSI team.
Okay.
I don't know anyone who's trained in the NEPSI.
Okay.
It's just not part of like
a typical standard.
Right. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah.
I'd be curious, like what, for a student let's say comes in, has a medical diagnosis of autism, presents in class like they might have autism, shows some behaviors, passes the eye test.
Yeah.
What type of criteria, what would be your like standard battery for this?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have, and I didn't realize that not every state has the same kind of IDEA standards. So we have pretty clear standardized sort of formulas for identifying intellectual disabilities and autism. And so our state Department of Education has online, if you looked up Connecticut Department of Ed, special ed eligibility, we have criteria where there's a paper that goes along with many of the eligibility categories, and then a checklist.
Okay.
So we'll say for autism, you have to have a number of, you have to have social communication disorder or difficulty. You have to have social difficulty. You have to have some stereotyped restricted repetitive interests or stereotype behavior. And most people that I run into, and I think my team in my district, if it's an initial, and we probably would do an ADOS.
Even with like the student has an outside diagnosis of autism, and there's general agreement.
We might not need to do an ADOS if there's general agreement. And then we might do some rating scales, like a social skills rating scale, the SSIS or SRS, an adaptive behavior scale to look at their adaptive needs, and then some kind of autism scale. So if we're looking diagnostically, we might do an ASRS or a CARS. If we're looking at just skills, then we might do a GARS, but most of our team sort of feels like the GARS isn't a really good diagnostic instrument.
No, I was really crazy too on the GARS. I think it's in one of the domains, but you have a raw score of 0. And it gives you like a score of 4.
Yeah.
Scale. It always seems like really counterintuitive.
Yeah,
like
it is.
You're literally impossible.
So this is, I don't know if Rachel and Rebecca are okay with me nerding out for just a second. I'm seeing some heads nod. So the GARS was standardized with only children who have autism.
Okay.
So when we do standardizing typical tests, we have what they call like a 2-gate approach to standardization. So they have a test population and a standardization sample. And typically you want your test population to represent the population.
Right.
And so in that case, you would only have like 5% of that population having autism maybe or something. But in order to accurately reflect that the test has positive predictive value, PPV, you oversample that population. And so in this, and a lot of tests do that, and there's nothing wrong with it, but it doesn't necessarily represent our actual population. So when we look at that, we go, oh, this has really high, what we call sensitivity and specificity. It can identify the condition, and it can identify those who don't have the condition. And so when we oversample, we likely have inflated positive predictive value. So a test.
I find that really interesting. Actually.
Yeah.
Because I found that I've been frustrated. I try to move away from the GARS. But but it's what I have.
Yeah.
So in the past, a lot of times when parents have been like, oh, my student, especially if they have a medical diagnosis of autism.
Yeah.
And then I've given the GARS to the parent, and it really, I feel like it's very oversensitive.
Yes.
Especially children like with Down syndrome.
Yes.
Like it tends to like always show that, you know.
Yeah. And you're like, I don't think this child has autism.
Right.
But yeah. I totally agree. And you can have 1 or 2 elevated scales where if you have a child with an emotional behavior disorder who has reactive emotional reactivity or some cognitive rigidity, which is comorbid for so many conditions, but they would come up high as having autism on a scale like that, even though we're pretty sure it's something else. So yeah. So the cool thing about this is one of our friends, Tom Barnes, I'll give Tom a shout out, wrote a really good article about using Bayesian methodology to identify accuracy in positive predictive value. And so it's a formula for basically using the actual numbers in the population to get a clearer picture of how sensitive a test is. And so I'm hopefully going to write an article that sort of piggybacks on that, that looks at actually sort of applying that to some different tests and seeing what the actual numbers might be for sensitivity and specificity. So this is fascinating to me. Yeah.
I thought that is interesting.
Yeah. And so I think of the GARS as a useful tool for progress monitoring, and not to give any disparity if someone works for the GARS, the publishing company. This is just how I'm interpreting that information about the standardization sample. But I think it's a really useful tool for progress monitoring. If you have a kid and you go, everybody fills out the form and we go, wow, this child has really great deal of difficulty with social skills and a great deal of difficulty with cognitive rigidity. Let's do some interventions, and we use that as our baseline. And then 6 months later, a year later, we're going to use the same rating scale and see if they've made progress in those areas. So I think it's useful in that respect.
I find that really interesting, actually.
Yeah.
I'm going to jump into the nerdiness too.
Sorry,
my understanding of the GARS is that, the reliability is not too hot at all. I mean, all autism rating scales are not super good in that regard. They all have this very high sensitivity and this very kind of low specificity. So anybody that has any social difficulties or is quirky in any way is like flagging really high. So I give autism rating scales for sure, because I feel like, I want to get information from all the parties and all the people that know the kid. And it's nice to have a report that has a measure designed for autism. I'm not one to go and give the ADOS. I have my own strong opinions on the ADOS. But I find that observations are my biggest tell of autism. I will observe them all day long if I need to, until I feel like, okay, now I'm satisfied and I have an answer, or I know what my recommendation is going to be. And when you said about, a kid that has a medical diagnosis, maybe I'm just lazy, but I will just accept that medical diagnosis, and I generally will not do an evaluation to just confirm what we already know, as long as we might do educational testing or something to show the impact and the need for specialized instruction. But I'm not going to look at autism again if we have a diagnosis and it's meshing and everyone's agreeable.
Actually, that's what I use the GARS for a lot. I'm talking about re-evals. So I'm talking about like I have to do. In the past, way back in the day, I wouldn't do. I just wouldn't do a survey. I would just say the child has autism, especially like educational. Like, this is a third grader. He was diagnosed at age 3. Yeah, pretty clear. It was communicated to me at that time by managers who no longer work for CPS that you need to have a survey or something. And I found the GARS was perfect. It still is perfect for these because it doesn't take teachers very long to do it. Yeah. And it's not online, and it's something they could quickly go through. So that's kind of how a lot of times I feel like
that makes sense.
Yeah. And I have looked and compared the different scales as far as psychometrics, because remember the three of us did kind of some test reviews back before. Yeah. So one of the tests that I reviewed was I was looking at the SRS-2 and comparing to other scales. And through that, again, I discovered that most of the scales aren't the best, but the SRS-2 was, according to some of the papers that I read, was preferred by reviewers and reviewers. So that's what
I find that the topic of like testing, like the ADOS, and a lot of people have really strong opinions about the ADOS, and then usually it comes down to like, I do, observations, or I do this, or it's just what I find. My own personal opinion with the ADOS is very good for students, like in the categories of like does not meet the criteria, or like just with the numbers, like kids, if they get a score of 0 to 4, it's pretty definitive, or if they get a score above 10, or let's say above 12, it's pretty definitive. It's in a whole range,
gray area,
and I find myself I think I'm very consistent. Like my way, what I see as eye contact, or what I see as like shared social enjoyment, I think I'm very consistent. And I'm sure you're very consistent. I think the problem is that the inter-test reliability, inter-test is going to be very off. Your description, my description
might be different.
Right.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. When I was trained in the ADOS too, there's a group of people all familiar with the ADOS. And then we had a student come in, and then we all like scored. And these are people who've all had experience for like 5+ years. We all had different scores.
Wow.
Every single one of us.
That's fascinating.
Right. It just gives you an idea. Like, yeah.
Wow.
I've never been in a situation where like when I have a really tough case, I'm like, oh, autism, yes or no. And I'm like really on the fence. And then I'm like, okay, let's do an ADOS. The ADOS never for me, like solves the problem. It's not like, okay, now I know. I'm still usually like, and I'll go by kind of my observations overall rather than that.
Well, it tells you that like a student is on the spectrum, but doesn't quite meet the criteria of autism. And there's another student who just meets the criteria for autism. Those two students are very similar, much more similar to one another than they are to like a student with, clear classic autism, or a student without any presenting. The students that are like in that gray area, they're, whatever side of that line they're on, I mean, they're much more similar to one another.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. Wow.
I want to just share quick my Googling.
Yes, yeah, what do you find?
Oh. So Google seems to think that LA likely has the most school psychologists. And then when I'm searching, like, what are the biggest districts just in general in the US, 1 would be New York City, 2 Los Angeles, 3 Chicago, 4 Miami, and then 5 Clark County in Nevada, where I was at. So.
I think LA just overtook Chicago. I think like in the last year or like recently, it just, because I remember reading it was like Chicago's population has declined somewhat.
Okay.
And I think it like just recently.
Wow. It's fascinating. I don't know. I love working in my medium-sized school district.
I'm amazed that Clark County is number 5 though. I would think that if I were to guess, I would guess like Atlanta, or I would guess Houston.
Yeah. Yeah.
So one of the things that we thought about talking about tonight, if I take a sharp right turn here, was Black History Month and the work of Black school psychologists. And I wondered if it would be a good time to kind of jump into that topic. Eric was kind enough to gather a bunch of articles from Black scholars. And I read something that school psychs out there may have also read. It was in this past communique. It was the social justice column, reimagining leadership through the lens of Black feminist thought by Carlita Joseph, Amber Sessoms, and Erica Wood. And I thought it was, and also Celeste Malone, Aaliyah Hayes, and Aaron Harper.
Yes.
So I thought it was an excellent article, and I'd love to kind of just share some thoughts if you all are open to it. Somehow I see it kind of related to what you're talking about a little bit in terms of Bayesian statistics and doing what makes sense rather than kind of following a prescription, because the article talked about leadership in schools. And, when we imagine a leader, we imagine someone with a title, but the article really kind of flipped that on its head for me. And it asks the question, what if our best model for leadership are actually Black women who have been leading all along, but often without title or salary or spotlight? As we know, our schools, especially our big schools, are more diverse than ever, especially, our big urban schools like the ones you're mentioning, Chicago and LA. And we still have such disparities in discipline, practice, and policies, and inequitable kind of access to supports. So the authors of this article suggest that Black feminist thought, Black feminist philosophy is an interesting way or an important way to understand how maybe to come up with a different solution than the ones we've been trying, how to look at race, gender, class, and other intersectionalities, other identities, not as necessarily very separate, distinct things that we can kind of correlate with different outcomes, but as their combination, creating specific challenges for those people. So, for example, Black women are not just sort of one race, one gender, like kind of minoritized in those different ways, but it really is about the combo and the specificity of that, if I'm saying that right, about Black feminist philosophy. And so the takeaways that I noticed from the article were that mentorship, sponsorship, carving out one's own particular path, expanding notions of leadership, and highlighting the contributions of Black women scholars and Black women school psychologists in particular could be really important for students. And I was just thinking about that in relation to kind of ethics in general, like doing things that matter. And right in NASP's, I wonder, can we can share that absolutely in our drive. It's a really good article. I get communique clearly every time, but I don't often or always make the time to sit down and read it. So I was really glad to read this recent social justice column in the communique, because it really is very interesting and useful. So so I wondered if anyone I tried to summarize it, but I could do more. If you have any other thoughts or questions about what the article said, or if anyone just has any reflections on what do you think about the marginalized position of people with intersectionality that creates the kind of this multiple bind in a way. And what if we stopped looking at titles and positions of power, but actually look at who's leading, who's actually doing the connecting and the mentoring and the change making in our schools, and what that could be like for our students, especially our minoritized and more vulnerable students. Any thoughts on that? I'll be quiet now. I said a lot.
That was great. One of the things I liked especially about that article too, very similarly, just thinking beyond what's been ingrained in us, right? And so that lens is a valued lens, and a lens that we can use to help solve problems and to help looking beyond the status quo, I think. So that was sort of my takeaway as well. And we've had a couple of those folks on, Celeste Malone, and Amber Sessoms does a really amazing podcast called Natural Inclination. She often has her daughter with her, who's just a gem, bright young woman or young girl. It's an amazing podcast. So they have such insight, and they're a lot of fun. And I believe they're doing a session together at NASP. So if you get a chance to check out Amber and Natural Inclination, they're amazing. So check them out. But yeah, other thoughts. I don't think there were any comments.
I kind of just wanted to add, clearly in NASP's ethics, multicultural competence is part of our, practicing within our competency and seeking supervision or consultation when we're not able to, understand or help our students in the ways that we are called to do. And then in APA's ethics as well, it's clear that our multicultural competence is essential for ethical functioning as a psychologist. And at the same time, we're in this world where there are universities saying that we can't even use the word diversity anymore. And to me, it's so sad, but I can't help but laugh at it because it's so dumb. So universities are in this position of changing classes that, had the diversity in the name to these ridiculous, unhelpful titles for coursework. And I just think it's infuriating. APA recently shared an article on their social media about the importance of advocacy in our fields. And I just think it's more important than ever. And we get all hooked, stumbled and stumped on sort of being political versus being ethical and being effective. And they seem to be, unfortunately, in many ways, the same thing. The work that we do is political because there are people who have power and then there are people who don't. And we're charged with representing children and adolescents who have very little and can be harmed by the systems of power and oppression. So I just think we really need to think about our role as advocates and how those can be improved in terms of leadership generally, but certainly around issues of multicultural competence and diversity and equitable care for our students.
I mean, I think that when you're talking about like mentorship and leadership, and I think that's so important, one, to kind of retain and recruit people from diverse backgrounds and, into this field because of, the diverse populations that we all work with. And we need that within amongst ourselves in order to be better school psychologists, to learn from our colleagues and to have our students have access to people that look like them or have similar backgrounds, I think is just so powerful. And so, it blows my mind that we're not always, people aren't recognizing like the importance of that. It's not just about like it's more than just a skill set. I could never, there's some things that like I'm just not going to be able to. I don't know. We just need to be open to learning from each other, and students need access to people that understand them and can understand them better than some of us are able to, if that makes sense. I don't know. I'm just rambling, but I just see the value in that. And so I think that as a field we knew, and we've had so many guests that come on that have said that entering the field of school psychology has been difficult for whatever reasons, just from the reception that they've received from other faculty members or from personnel in the school. And I think that then connecting with, our young students, our, students in school psychology, that mentoring, connecting with the faculty member that gets it, is what helps them continue on despite all the hardships and the roadblocks and things. So I know that we have so many people that we've had on the podcast too who do that and mentor others, and the Black School Psychology Network, and that work is just super important. But
yeah, thank you, Rachel. It reminds me of the work of Dr. Rudine Sims Bishop, who I believe was from Ohio. She used the concept of windows, mirrors, and sliding doors. And I think it was really in reference to literature, but I think it is a great reference or connection with mentoring and connecting with others and other school psychs. So, that diversity gives us a window into somebody else's experience, right? And the mirror allows us to see ourselves reflected in people who represent us, people who look like us. And then the sliding door allows us to develop empathy and walk in other people's shoes, and connect with other people. And when I first heard that in connection with literature, I thought, every classroom needs diverse literature. And somebody pointed out to me, it's not just for kids of color or kids from minoritized populations, but it's for all of us to also recognize that, everyone has contributions to our society. So I love that concept. So.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you for that. Explained it much better than I was able to articulate it.
Yeah, I like that idea of representation too. And your comment, Eric, made me think of something that we have been talking about recently, which was how the work in sort of in this area of supporting diverse perspectives and diverse clinicians in our field and diverse ideas and literature, all of it seems so housed in all these separate sort of silos of academia, right? There's the people, sociology, and the political scientists and the anthropologists and in education or literature. And then there are psychologists who, like we were saying, Beverly Daniel Tatum, who's a psychologist, but her work seemed more prominent in other fields. And maybe because she was an administrator, she worked at a university, she does, I think, work at a university as a, I'm not sure about that actually, but I thought she was an she works at an HBCU, I believe, as well. But it just didn't seem like her work necessarily penetrates psychology. And it's kind of, and even going through a full curricula again of the scope and practice of a clinical psychologist, the quote unquote diversity class, which now goes by another name, is one or two classes. So it's 6 credits at the most out of 120, I believe. It's not a lot. So like just this sense of like we pocket this stuff away. APA and NASP says this is really important for your everyday functioning. You must do this in order to meet the ethical standards of practice. And yet that's what we get of it. And it's just sad. If there was a way that maybe we didn't even need necessarily just like sort of that separate class over here, but that the ethics of it and the lens of multiculturalism and understanding diverse perspectives and celebrating Black school psychology, brown school psychology is reflected in the rest of our program. I mean, I think that could be really nice. And why is it so difficult? It seems unfortunate.
Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts. They're all political. That might be another podcast. But I love Jemiah's comment, like how can we bring more attention to this to our administrators and perhaps supporting HBCUs with, increasing school psych programs. I do know Howard has a school psych program. I don't remember. I think there was one other HBCU that did. Rachel mentioned the Black School Psychologist Network. So their conference is in April. It's virtual. It's pretty affordable. I bought a ticket and I also made a donation. So if anyone wants to donate to the Black School Psychologist Network, it's a great way to support just our scholars of color and just increasing diversity in the field. And Rebeca just read off the list of authors on this article, a whole bunch of rock stars in our field. I know we're running out of time, but I did want to just give a shout out to, first of all, to Antoinette Miranda, Dr. Antoinette Miranda, who is our NASP Lifetime Achievement Award winner this year. And so she works at The Ohio State University and has done just some tremendous work in the field of school psychology. So she'll be receiving her award on Wednesday as well. And so super excited for her and the work that she's done. So check her out. What I find is kind of cool is, so we made this repository of articles of Black scholars in the field. And so we're going to add that to our Google Drive. And what you can do is Google some of these folks and you get a Google Scholar page that lists their articles and what years they were done and what publications. And then they're all linked and you can click on the link. So we have folks like Ty Collins, Dr. Ty Collins, who's done some amazing work with behavior, with diversity. I included Dr. Desiree Vega, who's in Arizona. A lot of work with her with working with multicultural communities and linguistically diverse students. Dr. Janine Jones, who's been doing this work for a long time out in Seattle. Dr. Celeste Malone as well, who's at Howard University. So all these folks are doing research. Dr. Sherry Proctor, who's at Queens College in New York, and all these folks are doing great work. So look them up. We'll share the Google Drive. And I
just want to give a
shout out to
I mean, I've been lucky working in Chicago public schools for almost 30 years. I've been blessed to work with so many amazing, talented school psychologists, and especially African-American school psychologists. There's so many. I mean, what I've learned, and the most important thing is learning what you don't know. Your limitations. I'm just giving one shout out, Dr. Brian Apollo. He's been in this district almost as long as myself. His hair, I believe, is almost as gray as mine. I just want to make sure I get it right, but he has written a series of books. One of his most recent books is called Heart to Heart Real Talk.
Awesome.
It's worth checking out.
Okay.
Awesome.
Thank you. I love that you dropped his name, because I will check him out as well. So.
Awesome.
And I think that if anybody's at the conference, look and see. We have a lot of friends. I know that Maryland School Psych Association sent out kind of an email blast and said, like, these are our Maryland folks and they are presenting at these times and whatnot. And of course, Dr. Malone was there. And so, they're all out there spreading the word and doing the good work. And so if you're going to be at NASP, look them up.
Awesome.
All right. Looking for last kind of calls for questions, comments, anything. I know this is a little bit of a kind of all over the place episode with bouncing around topics, but yeah. But it was a good time. So thanks for everybody who tuned in. Any last words, Spotty, before we embark on NASP?
Thanks to Noel for joining us, and Steve and Stephanie for hosting us.
Thank you guys so much for inviting me. It was so much fun.
Thank you. Yeah. And I'm honored. I keep saying I'm over the moon to receive this award from NASP, and grateful, because we don't do this in a vacuum. All of us as educators and support personnel for students all do this together. We learn from one another. We support each other. And so I may be recognized, but there's a whole host of other people standing, with me who, and you two included, who have helped me grow and learn and do the good work that I'm trying to do. So, thank you. And
I'm excited too. I want to say that because Eric knows everybody and everybody knows Eric, so it's so much fun to be at a conference with him, because people from across the room are just like, Eric, and then if Eric sees somebody, he'll just strike up a conversation. So he accumulates like a crowd around him. And so my plan at the conference, assuming I can get there with the snow, is just to follow him around and enjoy all the people and all the conversations that happen. And certainly to go to all the parties and things celebrating his success. So I'm going to ride on his coattails a little bit.
You were welcome to.
Cindy's rooftop, not Lulu's rooftop.
Cindy's rooftop.
Okay. We have to check that one out.
Best view of the city, free to get there.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I will add a funny anecdote as you're saying that, Rachel. So I was teaching on Thursday at Southern Connecticut State University Thursday night, and Jack Naglieri called me. And for those of you who know, Jack is the author of many tests, the ASRS, the CEFI, the Wechsler Nonverbal, Professor Emeritus, and has written chapters upon chapters and tests upon tests and articles upon articles. And so he called me, and we had just finished talking, my students and I, about the CAS-2, the cognitive assessment system. And I held my phone up and I said, "It's Jack Naglieri. Look, you can see his name on the caller ID." And they're like, answer it. So I did. And Jack said, "I'll zoom in, send me a link." And we zoomed him into class, and we had him up on the smart board. And he chatted with us for a little while. He was very gracious, but it was an awful lot of fun to have him come into our class and chat. So,
and he's another guitar player too.
Right? And he's another guitar player, right?
Yes. Yeah. Speaking of FaceTiming and zooming in, I can't be at NASP this year, and I'm really sad about that. So I know Rachel's going to try to zoom me in, especially for your award, Eric. But this is to everyone out there at NASP. If you see them, make them call me, because I'll try to get on. And I want to see what's happening. Okay. I'm really having so much FOMO, so I'd like to be a part of it. Rachel.
I want to live stream you up on the stage, Eric. I don't know if we need to talk about the details. I don't know if you're like making a speech or if there's anything said or if it's just whatever it is, but whatever it is, I'm going to live stream it. So watch
okay.
out.
Thank you.
All right. So thanks, everybody. I don't see any other questions or comments. So we'll hopefully you can, check out some live streams from NASP and we'll post some pictures and things. So
awesome. Thank you, everyone. Thank you all.
All right. Thanks. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.